Blog Talk Radio.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the Rockies' red glares of bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Days of Our Lives, brought to you by the Medlock Post Radio Show. Yeah, the Days of our General Hospital, whatever's going on there. I'm your host, Richard G. Medlock. This is an American program where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. And this is where we stand for the red, white, and blue. Our program is brought to you by the United States Constitution. Today is April 27th, 2023. This is episode 140. I'm going to hold the title to the episode. Some of you might have seen it if you've already logged in. The views and opinions on the Medlock Post Radio Show are the views and opinions of the host. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. Yes, April 27th.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Army. Our flag.
All righty. Why am I playing the United States Marine hymn? Because on April 27th, 1805, the United States Marines, after a 400-mile march, attacked the shores of Tripoli and had a key victory in the Barbary Wars. They kicked the Barbary pirates left and right. They were sent there by President Thomas Jefferson because the pirates were taking ships and slaves. They'd get the sailors and make them slaves. You see, after the Revolutionary War, the English ships would not protect American ships, and they let it be known to the world, hey, they're on their own, do what you want to. So the pirates went after American ships, and Jefferson had enough of it. So the Marines, this is where their hymn was basically born, and they put themselves on the map as a fighting unit of the United States. So Semper Fi, Marines, this is not your anniversary, but it's the anniversary of a major victory that put you on the map when you attacked the Barbary pirates. There's a whole lot. Look up the history of that. Folks, it's fascinating. We don't have time today. We got a lot to cover today. My question now for whoever, for everybody, is who has the January 6th tapes? Remember, Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, gave them to Tucker Carlson. Now, did that make them property of Fox News? Because he only gave them to Tucker because he wanted them treated properly, not cut up, manipulated like the rest of the media would have done. So does Tucker still have the January 6th tapes? Now, another thing to watch here about Tucker, it's already started. You knew this was going to happen. Attacking him. Oh, there's memos and emails that show him he's just a vicious, bad person behind the scenes and all this stuff. You're probably going to have some women come out. Well, he sexually assaulted me in the changing room and all this stuff. They're going after him, folks. And they're doing it to send a message to all of us. Watch what you say. We're coming after you. If you don't fall in line with us, the elites, we're coming after you. Well, they've been telling us that for a long time. They got rid of Dan Bongino, but he's fine. He has his other daily show. Tucker Carlson has already been offered a job making more money than he made at Fox. It's interesting, the dynamics that are taking place here, and it's fun to watch. They announced this morning the GDP for first quarter was 1.1%. They were expecting 2%. The market, the economy is slowing down. Also, folks, tonight's the NFL draft. Okay. Biden, of course, 2 days ago, in some recorded announcement, said he's going to seek re-election. Was that a surprise to anybody? No. Does it matter who sits in the White House for the Democrat Marxists? They're controlled by the deep state, by the establishment there and from the global side, finding out that there are more and more Democrats on the Chinese payroll. Blinken, Secretary of State Blinken, it looks like he is one of them. They've got information on him. So much going on. Putting the show together, I'd put this together 2 days ago, and then all this stuff going on yesterday, and I got in here and I said, okay, I'm going to change this around, and I started looking. I said, no, I'm leaving it the way I had it set up, except for a couple of changes. And then tomorrow I'll get into this other stuff, and it's just moving so fast right now, it's somewhat hard to keep up with. I found some old recordings yesterday of some of my old shows from 2015. And this was right after, this was in June. Trump had announced in April of 2015 he was running for president, the Republican candidate. I started listening to some. I said, this is interesting. I might have to do some sound bites off of this. I'll work on that this weekend. Calvin Coolidge, President Calvin Coolidge, who was a great president, loved the Constitution, tried to abide by the Constitution, got Congress to help him support and sustain the Constitution, got the country out of debt, stopped the spending, lowered taxes, made this comment in 1926. About the Declaration, there is a finality that is exceedingly restful. It is often asserted that the world has made a great deal of progress since 1776, that we have had new thoughts and new experiences which have given us a great advantage over the people of that day, and that we may therefore very well discard their conclusions for something more modern. You see how long this has been going on, folks? Destroy the Constitution, continuing with President Coolidge. But that reasoning cannot be applied to this great charter. If all men are created equal, that is final. If they are endowed with inalienable rights, that is final. If government derives their just powers from the consent of the governed, that is final. No advance, no progress can be made beyond these propositions. If anyone wishes to deny their truth or their soundness, the only direction in which he can proceed historically is not forward, but backward toward the time when there was no equality, no rights of the individual, no rule for the people. Those who wish to proceed in that direction cannot lay claim to progress. They are reactionary. Their ideas are not more modern, but more ancient than those of the revolutionary fathers. Calvin Coolidge just made a great point, well, in 1926, almost 100 years ago. He laid it down. The truth is the truth is the truth. And when you try to change the truth, you go backwards. You want to go back to the Dark Ages? Fine, go. But leave the rest of us alone. If you want to live in a country that doesn't have freedom, move to one. And then see how you like it. And he's saying here, there is no place for this thinking. He was addressing, at that time, the communists that were accepting this Marxist idea that Karl Marx had just come out with, that government should be big, they should control everything, and that the Constitution is a bunch of wacko right now. Remember, the genius of the Constitution is that it was written about human behavior, not modern technology. Human behavior doesn't change. Government has always proven, as Thomas Jefferson taught us, that when government starts getting big, liberty wanes. Progress is government gets bigger and bigger, and liberty gets smaller and smaller. It's that simple, folks. And Calvin Coolidge was addressing it here. And these same voices are yelling this still today. It's just an old piece of paper. It's no good anymore. We're too modern. Same stuff. Oh, they don't have any new arguments, folks. Plus, they don't have any principles. Marxism, communism, is not based on principles. It's based on force and control. And if you want that, move to Venezuela, move to Cuba, move to Russia, move to Ukraine. Well, why did you say? Ukraine is a communist country. Zelensky is a communist dictator. That's why people were trying to leave his country for the last 20 years. Now, what am I leading up to? Victor Davis Hanson came out with an article the other day, and it's brilliant. The title of the show today is America Already Socialist? Is America already socialist? Well, it's from Victor Davis Hanson. He says, do we even know we are all socialists now? Are we? Maybe we haven't accepted that ideology But what has our government done? It's like the gentleman the other day. I love America, but I'm confused by my government. To Victor David Hanson. I was going to try to summarize this, and I kept looking. I said, no, there's no way to summarize this. Victor David Hanson, do we even know we are all socialists now? Question mark. Sometimes when you are in the midst of a revolution, you do not even know it. I doubt all the Germans who voted in National Socialism quite foresaw what quickly was to come. Those who overthrew the Bourbons or the Romanovs had no idea that they had sown the wind and were soon to reap the Jacobin and Bolshevik whirlwind. A little history lesson, go look it up. Socialism with a whimper. So it is with our woke, a euphemism for the socialist revolution we are in and do not fully appreciate or even understand. Socialism is variously defined. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary emphasizes the role of the state in near communist terms. Any of various egalitarian economic and political theories or movements advocating collective or governmental ownership or administration of the means of production and distribution of goods. Now notice the two things, government ownership and administration. So it can be done either way. In America, we're seeing the government administer to the corporations what they're to do and to make. The Cambridge Dictionary more accurately notes that socialism is the set of beliefs that states that all people are equal and should share equally in a country's money, or the political system based on these beliefs. It's not shared equally, folks, but they want you to believe that. The latter definition perhaps best sums up much of the operative ideology of the new Democratic Party, the Biden administration, and its subordinates, both elected and administrative. He just defined the deep state, folks. But perhaps socialism in America 2023 is even better described as something like the doctrine of enforced equity by government redistribution of money and power from one oppressive group to another oppressed, with the caveat that the elite redistributors have the right to supersede the law based on their own self-professed superior morality and the assurance that they will never be subject to the baleful consequences of their own unnatural ideology. How many times have we talked about what he just said? They make the rules ruler's law, and they don't suffer any consequences. They decide who goes to jail and who doesn't, who's guilty and who's innocent. They decide who pays taxes and who doesn't. In this, right now, everybody pays taxes. And they're not paying any consequences, just the rest of us. Back to Victor David Hanson. We have been drifting into such a socialist system for decades, but it was accelerated by the 8 years of the Obama administration and has arrived at near fruition with the Biden administration. First, that the more socialist we become, the greater the resistance grows, and the more desperate and cruel the socialists become to force down the throats of the public something they otherwise would vomit up. What a great phrase. We're going to vomit up your socialistic tyranny because we don't want it. Now, when Hillary did not get elected and Trump went in, they knew they had to get the government back into the White House And when Biden won, and they accelerated everything. We've got to do it as fast as we can, and that's what they've been doing. They're holding their ground. What did Biden say last night after the Democrats passed the debt limit bill with all these cutbacks? He says, there's no negotiation. I'm not signing that. Schumer's already said we're not even going to vote on it. See, that's what's wrong. The process, Constitution says, the one house passes a bill, it goes to the other, and they discuss it and vote on it. But we've had one person in each house for too long stopping these bills. Well, I don't like it. It doesn't fit my ideology, so we're not even going to vote on it. That should be treason. Back to VDH. Under the woke socialist model, there are no longer any absolutes, laws, or customs. We are left instead with mere constructs deemed illegitimate and arbitrary, in need of systematic dismantling in the interest of the proverbial people. Amen. We talk about, I've talked about these things over and over. He's just reaffirming a lot of things that we have brought to bear. Such redistributionist, compensatory, and reparative efforts to make us equal on the backsides have in common a war against all meritocracy and indeed any accomplishment deemed singular and beyond the ability of the masses. They don't want success. Now, the surrender of the campuses. Pay close attention to this, ladies and gentlemen. Socialism has become not just economic, but political, cultural, social, and even military. Take universities. Most are dropping the SAT and ACT entrance exams not because they fail to calibrate both past achievement and the likelihood of future aptitude, but because too many do too poorly and thus find themselves unequal to those fewer who do too well. Oh, everybody gets a trophy. No more test. Just show up. We'll let you in, take out a government student loan, and voila, we'll give you a degree. Grade point averages are losing significance since the achievers succeed supposedly only by advantage and not by hard work, preparation, and talent. Free speech is non-existent. Racist and hate speech is protected if voiced by the marginalized. This is what we're talking about, been talking about. The other day I read Henry Hazlitt, that I can sum up Marxism. This is what it's all about. They didn't get that for hard work. They stole it from somebody undeserving. Back to the article. University admissions increasingly have little to do with talent, or rather talent is described not so much as the ability to think analytically and computationally, to have mastery of language, spoken and oral, or some acquaintance with the referents, historical, scientific, and literary of our civilization. Instead, qualifications are becoming more a matter of life experience, or community service, or activities, or commitments to Hopi or changey diversity, equity, and inclusion, as the traditional 1/3 of the application packet absorb the other 2/3 of grades, and test scores. We have been building up to this for years. Do you remember when they first started out handing out trophies to everybody? Well, the people that used to work hard to get first place decided, why do I need to do this? And now we're throwing in men can compete with women. Under academic socialism, entrance and, of course, is merely the first step. Courses are watered down, grades inflated. The D and F grades have all but disappeared. The A, it's become inflationary to the point of being utterly meaningless, like a German mark circa 1923. Everyone knows that current courses on comic books, movies, and social media, proper adjectives, black, queer, and feminist, promulgate not just for ideological reasons of indoctrinating impressionable teen fodder, but to ensure that almost anyone admitted to university can pass such courses. In socialist campuses, graduation is almost assured upon and indeed equivalent to admission. Flunking out is an anachronism. The only way you flunk out is you leave. A Stanford, Yale, or Harvard law degree is not synonymous with mastery of American jurisprudence, a fact as known to all as it is out of politeness unspoken. In the Biden years, just 2.5, the elite socialist universities have done the near impossible. They, one, made it almost impossible for working-class white males to go to top schools based on their proven achievement. So if you're at the top of your class, so what? Can't come here. Number two, have taken us back to the anti-Jewish quota years of the 1920s and 30s by radically and deliberately curtailing the presence of high-achieving American Jews on Ivy League campuses. Look this stuff up, folks. And number three, have reinstated an entire neo-Confederate unconstitutional set of discriminatory rules to accommodate those admitted without competitive test scores and grades, from racially segregated graduations, dorms, safe places, and workshops to one-drop, 1/16 Old South notions of racial purity. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is how far it has gone. There are very few universities in this country right now I would send one of my grandchildren. From taxes to voting. The tax code is socialist. We know that. It was put in 1913 by socialist Marxists. About 1% of households pay 50% of federal income taxes and are damned as greedy for it. Their symmetry is true of most state income tax schedules as well. The antithesis of Reagan's starve the beast, limiting revenues to force cuts in superfluous spending, is now gorge the beast. Spend so much indiscriminately, run up such astronomically multi-trillion budget deficits, and inflate debt to GDP to over 130% that redistributionist, higher and higher taxes become perpetually necessary. Voting is now socialist-inspired. The old idea that each citizen chooses or not to participate in democracy by showing up to vote and presenting identification is considered discriminatory. The socialist answer in many states is to require no identification, fast-track same-day voter registration, automatically mailed out ballots, and ballot harvesting and curing. The common theme is that if not enough of those deemed oppressed, victimized, and marginalized choose to vote, then the system must be warped to ensure somehow, with minimum or no effort, their ballots are cast. You're getting this? I know you are. Because he's laying out what we have been watching for years. Yes, we have been watching this take place, and many of us have been screaming and yelling and warning, and we're going to. And they've tried to shut me down. They've attacked me during my show. But all my safeguards stopped them. Now, equity jurisprudence. It's almost jurisprudence, really. The law is socialist, or worse, in the sense of Levente's Berea's show me the man and I'll find the crime. It now operates on the critical legal theory idea that most American laws are the manifestations of the powerful and wealthy. Really. What is illegal is only so because the wealthy never need to break such laws. So why not steal, or rather redistribute, a hairdryer or smartphone that a rich man never does, but makes illegal? Really. So because someone else can afford a phone or a car or a home, and someone else wants to go steal a car or steal a phone or steal clothes or steal shoes, not work boots, but steal shoes or Nikes or whatever they want, that's okay. Because the elite wealthy made the laws. No, they didn't. The elite wealthy didn't make the laws. The people we elected and sent to Congress made the laws. Thus, smash and grab, looting, shoplifting, and even violent assault increasingly either do not lead to arrest or to indictment or to conviction or to incarceration. The socialist mind insists laws do not represent natural and ancient ideas of morality, such as thievery is always wrong and assault endangers society, but simply a particular value system of the oppressive rich and increasingly in America, the so-called rich white population. Here we go into racism again. Oh, it's the rich white supremacists. It's all their fault. Tyranny. Ruler's law. That's what we're watching, folks. The idea of deterrence is taboo. Socialists do not believe law, order, and calm exist because those who would disrupt them fear the consequences more than the advantage of taking what you want or hurting whom you please. We're putting it into perspective here. And Victor David Hanson has done an excellent job doing that. Then going back, the socialist mind insists laws do not represent natural and ancient ideas of morality. Natural law, which the Marxist, the ideologist, are trying to put away, is the law that can't be changed. God's law of right and wrong and morality cannot be changed. Oh, you can pass laws and say, man has made this okay, go do it. Or if you go do it, we're not going to do anything about it. Does not make it right. It's still wrong. Some of these people that have been brought up in poor neighborhoods, families on welfare since way back when, they don't know. Do they really know the difference? Do they understand it? They're just being told, go do what you want, go in front of a judge, case dismissed. Back to Victor David Hanson. We talk about George Soros's public prosecutors, which he denies. It's kind of hard to deny when all your money went into getting them elected. But the nihilist Soros genesis is always to be one step ahead of the game, applying what made him an outlaw in France to our popular culture. Yes, an outlaw. He was a Nazi German. Folks, he supported Hitler and did atrocious things. No one anticipated that he would quietly flood rather obscure big city prosecutorial races with hundreds of millions of dollars to elect hard socialists who were to use their ensuing power to engage in lawfare against conservatives and the prominent, and make laws and target enemies that legislators could not. Without a Soros-funded Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and Fannie Willis, the nation would now be reduced to speculating whether former President Donald Trump's 2-year unauthorized storage of some classified documents at a secure Mar-a-Lago was a worse infraction than former Vice President Joe Biden's unauthorized storage of classified documents at 3 locations, including his garage, for 6 years and more since he was a senator. Defunding the police is based on the implicit assumption that greater criminality and violence, mostly directed against the most vulnerable, is a small price to pay, given A, the stigmatized criminal is given exemptions, and B, the architects of defunding have mechanisms to ensure they're exposed to an inevitable spiraling crime rates. Then ditto gun control. The socialist point of neutering the Second Amendment is not just to disarm the populace, much less to prevent shootings. Rather, the aim is to ensure the government has a complete monopoly on arms. Remember that. It is the government to have a complete monopoly on guns so that it can calibrate both the degree and nature of law enforcement and thus render the citizen compliant and obsequious in order to ensure his protection from both criminals and the state. That's right. They want us as serfs, as slaves, as servants. And if they get our guns, then that's what we become. Socialist corruption. One key element of socialism we often forget is its innate corruption. Castro family, the Chavezes of Venezuela, or the Ortegas of Nicaragua all became rich by taking large bites out of the transfer of money from the rich to the poor, taking bribes from the rich to win exemptions, or doling out concessions to the people's resources. In other words, they were self-appointed gatekeepers. Socialists are often the very rich, or at least become the wealthy, when they achieve power. Paradoxically, they despise those who make money legally apart from the mechanisms of the state, i.e. Joe Biden making money from China, Russia, the Ukraine, etc. And on and on. I'm not going to go in to the Hunter Biden stuff and the Russia disinformation and all that. You know the answers there. You know the truth. Tidbit socialism. In California, a bill passed the Assembly mandating that power bills be massaged by income levels. The initial, but by no means the final, rewards and punishments schedule seeks to add a flat fee onto energy users based on their income. The idea came from the power companies themselves, both to ingratiate themselves to left-wing California legislators, but also to find cash to cover their massive losses incurred by forced adherence to madcap wind and solar mandates. In sum, the more one is liable not to pay for the energy he uses, the cheaper the power bill, regardless how much power he consumes. Fail in business, get cheaper electricity. Succeed and pay more. And Biden is trying to do this with the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae lending agencies. Starting May 1, new rules governing home loans will go into effect that were advanced by the bureaucrats at the quasi-public Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. The Federal Housing Finance Agency is punishing would-be home buyers with excellent credit ratings by forcing them to pay higher mortgage rates and fees. The risk is somewhere else. not with those that can afford a mortgage. The risk of lending is to those that can't. So we're going to benefit them. We're going to lower their rates. We're going to lower their payment and force it onto other people, just like they're trying to do with the student loan relief. You got it, you're going to pay. You got to give it away. We're going to break you one way or the other. We're going to bring you in as a subservient citizen one way or the other. That is what's happening here, folks. You go back to the 2008 subprime meltdown. I was there. I saw it. I was part of it. I could see it coming. And I started telling people, it's coming. Get out of the subprime. Get your investments out of those mortgage-backed securities. And people laughed at me. They weren't laughing when they lost everything. And I mean everything. It's just crazy, folks. They hate excellence. They hate success. They hate intelligence. They hate people that think for themselves. And they're coming after us. A final note. The Orwellian police state is central to socialism since the ideology is contrary to innate human nature and when fully implemented quickly ruins all that it touches and is commensurately despised in its fruition. So to force compliance is a 360-degree, 24/7 project that transcends all our institutions and culture. And that's why they have dug in their heels. They're not going to negotiate anything. They think they're sitting right where they need to be and nobody can stop them. We're going to do what we want to do. Kevin McCarthy, pass all the good, sensible, constitutional bills all you want. We're not going to mess with them. This is why the woke FBI goes after counter-revolutionary parents at school board meetings or traditionalist Catholics rather than Pentagon leakers or Islamic terrorists. This is why the FBI and the CIA, respectively, tried to warp the 2016 election with the phony Steele dossier, and in 2020 probably did so by suppressing the truth about the bombshell evidence found in wayward Hunter Biden's laptop. This is why news disappears off Facebook and the old Twitter. This is why the order of Google search results seem bizarre. This is why Disney or Budweiser suddenly virtue signal their nihilist politics, or why Nike makes the mediocrity Colin Kaepernick, a multimillionaire, or Stafford University attempts to purge vocabulary such as citizen, immigrant, and American. Once socialism takes hold, every mediocrity, every ossified bureaucracy, every constipated careerist, every hack writer, and nobody actor comes out of the woodwork to find his socialist fair share of what he lacked in talent or accomplishment. I can't make it as a man, so I'm going to go be a woman athlete. In the end, listen to this, folks. In the end, perhaps the best definition of socialism is simply the endless war against merit. The endless war against merit. This is what they're trying to destroy. They want to destroy good. They want to destroy religion. They want to destroy laws and make them up as they go. This is why our voices are going out. This is why Tucker Carlson, Dan Bongino were fired from Fox News. Harry Truman said this: once a government is committed to the principle of silencing the voice of opposition, it has only one way to go, and that is down the path of increasingly repressive measures until it becomes a source of terror to all its citizens and creates a country where everyone lives in fear. Take away your right to speech, take away your right to own a gun, take away your right to practice your religion, to live it, to earn a good living, to get a good education. We're going to take all that away. And they've done a darn good job in the public education system. Matter of fact, parents, do you know what your children are being taught in the public education schools today? If not, you need to find out. I'm talking about today. When they come home from school, what were you taught today? Does it coincide with our values as a family? Ayn Rand said this: so long as a concept such as the public interest is regarded as a valid principle to guide legislation, lobbies and pressure groups will necessarily continue to exist. Since there is no such entity as the public interest, since the public is a number of individuals, the idea that the public interest supersedes private interest and rights can have but one meaning, that the rights and interests of some individuals take precedent over the interests and rights of others. This is from her essay, The Pull Peddlers. Pull, P-U-L-L, talking about lobbyists. Oh, this is for the good of the public. Well, what about the good of the individual? What about the good of the family? We're the ones that make up the society. Dixon Diaz said this: the government road called the common good always ends at one Auschwitz or another. Picture that, folks. The government road called the common good always ends up at one Auschwitz or another. History will repeat itself. But we still have our advantages. We, the people, are one nation under God, and we're going to defend that. All right. Phew. Okay. We are. All righty. Coming to the close here. We'll play the Marines hymn again. And this is the instrumental version, because I still have a couple of things to say on the brighter side here. Thomas S. Monson taught us, we are surrounded by those in need of our attention, our encouragement, our support, our comfort, our kindness, be they family members, friends, acquaintances, or strangers. We are the Lord's hands here upon the earth, with the mandate to serve and to lift His children. He is dependent upon each of us. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said this: the most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen. Thank you, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Ladies and gentlemen, these are trying times that we live in. There's a lot of positive to work on and to build on. Take our challenges in life, learn from them, Do we have setbacks? Absolutely. But we learn from them. We turn around and fight harder the next day. We don't quit. We keep trying. We keep moving forward. This is what America is all about. We never give up, and we never give up on America. I love America. I'm just confused by my government. What a great, I love that phrase. Never, ever give up on America. Never, ever give up on the Constitution. It is true. It is right. And we need to stand by it no matter what the situation. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we listen to the Marine Corps hymn, Semper Fi, we love the Marines. We love all our service members. We pay honor to them every day, along with our police and fire and first responders. They put their lives on the line for us ordinary citizens, every day. They are dedicated. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember them. And that, folks, is the Medlock Post Radio Show for today, April 27, 2023. May God bless America.